Turn our country around.
Yeah!
Listen, you know, so many of y'all, we have been fighting side by side in this fight for a long, long time. You know, I think when we started this campaign a year and a half ago, this was one of the very first places I came. And a great many of y'all jumped on board a year and a half ago. Look, when you guys started supporting this campaign, let me be real candid, you were nuts to do so. There wasn't a soul in the state that thought we had a president. When we started a year and a half ago, I was polling at 2% in the polls. And the margin of error was 3%. Every political graybeard said this was impossible. We're running against the sitting lieutenant governor, universal name ID, unlimited cash. It could not be done, is what everyone said. And you know, the biggest thing I want to say to everyone here today is thank you. Thank you. We are in this runoff because of you. In the primary, we were outspent 5-1, and yet thousands of conservatives all over the state came together, Republican women, Tea Party activists, grassroots activists, and spread the word. Pachyderms, absolutely. Look, two things I want to very briefly say. Number one, what the stakes are in this race. And number two, why fighting together I believe we're going to win this race. The stakes. Our country's going broke. The national debt is larger than the gross domestic product. We are galloping down the road to where Greece and Italy and much of Europe are. And the biggest difference is there are nations that can bail out Greece. There ain't nobody big enough to bail us out.
That's right.
Barack Obama has been the most radical president this country's ever seen. But the unhappy truth is Obama didn't invent spending. It was a bipartisan problem long before Obama got elected. And all across this country, people are fed up with the same tired establishment incumbents in both parties who won't stand for the Constitution. I think the stakes in this race are very simple. Do we save our country? 3 years ago, the national debt in this country was $10 trillion. That took 43 presidents over 2 centuries to build that much debt. In 3 years, it's gone from $10 trillion to $16 trillion. That's a 60% increase in just 3 years. You know, Heidi and I are blessed with 2 little girls, Caroline and Catherine. Caroline is 4, Catherine is 1. Randy, you know, the best indication that God is a benevolent God, both our girls look just like their mom. And every one of us that have kids or grandkids, we understand what this race is about. All of us want our kids and grandkids to inherit a country that has more opportunity, a brighter future than the world we grew up in. And that's what's being threatened right now. At the end of the day, none of this is rocket science. Stop spending money we don't have. If any of us ran our businesses or our homes the way the federal government is, we'd be bankrupt. That's what the stakes are. I have spent a lifetime fighting for the Constitution, and I think what we desperately need in Washington is principled conservative fighters that'll stand up, stop the spending, stop the debt, and get back to the Constitution. Second thing I want to talk about. Why together we're going to win. This race is going unbelievably, incredibly well, and it is due to each of you. It is due to your incredible passion, your incredible leadership. A week ago, we conducted our first statewide poll in the row. We are leading this race right now, statewide. We are ahead by 9 points, 49 to 40. Today, 2 new independent polls came out. Neither one from our campaign, neither one from the other campaign. Both of the polls that came out today show we are leading this race statewide. Now let me just stop for a moment and reflect on how unbelievable, how unprecedented this is. My opponent in this race put over $10 million of his own money into flooding the airways with false, nasty attack ads trying to convince every Texan that I'm a red Chinese communist. And it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked because of each of you. We have gotten here because the strength of this campaign has not been the ability to pour unlimited money. The strength of the campaign has been each and every one of you. Now, we got 19 days to go. And I want to, number one, thank you for what you've done to get us here, and number two, to make a personal appeal to each and every one of you to double and redouble your efforts. Mark my words, in the next 3 weeks, we're going to see $10 million spent against us in this race. You're not going to be able to turn on the television without hearing that I am a one-legged, leprous axe murderer. For the record, I have 2 functional legs.
Oh, that's a lie.
That's coming. And I'll tell you right now, we don't have $10 million to respond. Every one of you is the front line of response. What I ask every one of you to do is in the next 19 days, reach out to everyone you know. The runoff is July 31st. Early voting is July 23rd to July 27th. This race is very, very simple. If conservatives show up and vote in the runoff, we will win overwhelmingly. In fact, you want to know the stakes of this race, it's actually quite interesting. Our internal polling, a question we ask statewide of likely primary voters is, which better reflects your values? The Tea Party or the traditional GOP? You know what the results are among likely primary voters statewide on that?
Tea Party.
50% say the Tea Party better reflects their values. 35% say the traditional GOP. That's the statewide results. Among those who say the Tea Party better reflects those values, we have a 50-point lead. 5-0. 72 to 22. That's the lead statewide. Now, interestingly enough, one of the 2 independent polls that came out today, which I don't know the bottom line numbers to because they're just tweeting teasers, but it's public policy polling. And they just tweeted, they said their poll shows we're ahead. I don't know about how much in their poll, but they just tweeted, interestingly enough, and there's a real mirror image to there. They just tweeted and said in our polls, public policy polling, Dewhurst has a 50-point lead among moderates. And he's losing statewide. So I don't know what the numbers are. Our polls actually don't show him with that much of a lead among moderates, but it does really highlight what the choice is. You know, I was at a gathering the other day in San Antonio. We had a great fundraiser there, and the San Antonio paper had written an article saying, you know, the problem with Cruz is that he won't go to Washington and get along with everyone there. He won't get along with the committee chairs.
Good.
And you know what? Guilty as charged. We've got too many people in Washington. There's an old line that politics is Hollywood for ugly people. There are too many people that want to be in Washington because they want to go to a cocktail party and feel very, very important and have people laugh at their lousy jokes. And you know what? If our country wasn't going broke, that might be one thing. But I think the stakes have never been higher. The next 19 days, every cannon imaginable is going to be fired at us. And it's going to be up to each and every one of you to reach out to your friends. We have every day all across the state hundreds of volunteers. Phone banking, block walking, on email, on Twitter. In the next 19 days, this race will be won and lost. So I ask every one of you, a great many of you have devoted hundreds of hours, thousands of hours to this race. I thank you for it, but the next 19 days is the whole ball of wax. If we get conservatives out, we win the race. And it all comes down individually. Every time, Mike, you talk to a friend or family or loved one and say, listen, this race matters. And I know this guy. It matters more than 100 television commercials.
Yeah, it does.
Y'all are the front lines. We're here because of you. And I'll tell you this, it is the singular honor of my life to stand shoulder to shoulder with each of you, fighting to save our country. Thank you.
Everyone, the early voting actually starts Monday, isn't that correct?
No. A week from Monday.
A week from Monday. Okay, a week from Monday.
And I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay, well, we're going to open.